I know this is really weird since I don't do much Piggy videos, but I thought it would be really fun to to tell you my theories, all of them. I remember one which was when chapter 12 was coming and everyone was feeling telling what could happen after chapter 12, the ending. Let me just find my phone if it's somewhere. There it is. I remember this one video where I commented something. This is the main reason why I loved watching Piggy. I enjoyed his content, and even before that, before I got one of my theories / comments was told, I used to watch him a lot because I loved watching his theories. And let me just try and find that certain video if I can find it anywhere. Somewhere in my liked videos. Early I can't find it. Oh no. Oh no, I found it. Ladies and gentlemen, I have found it.
Now this is a pretty talk about my personal opinion on how I think Piggy will end.
It's somewhere.
It's kind of just having, they're not really there because so you it will keep that doggy and it would help absolutely. Almost like a sleep on one of your videos, and the first potions was infected character, so infected green double-O's, and in front is P said they found some sort of substance, and that's when it ends. That is such a good theory. And let's just, for an example, what if the theory is that we're actually George? Being that George is the one missing, what if we're the one actually missing and we're living that reality in this dream in a way? The things that's happening to George now in the situation, that's what we're kind of going through. But if that makes any sense, we're actually George, I don't know, this is getting interesting. Watermelon Fun says, my theory today, what if you had bad insomnia and when you escape, you wake up, and if you died, you would either wake up scared or die in your sleep.
Wait, let me just play that louder just in case you didn't hear it. So I'll go back to where it says my theory today. And I'll make sure you can hear it, because last time I did a meme and I didn't upload it because it was too quiet. Really too quiet. Oh no, I accidentally took a screenshot. Okay, it's gonna be really loud now, so RIP headphone users.
George, I don't know, this is getting interesting. Watermelon Fun says, my theory today, what if you had bad insomnia and when you escape, you wake up, and if you died, you would either wake up scared or die in your sleep, and every chapter is a dream, and the players choose their nightmare chapter, and your bad insomnia makes you see the Piggy / Piggies that you love, and maybe in this game, you love Peppa Pig, and you also see other people from your imagination, like an imaginary friend, and you are in an insane room or in the hospital in a special hard to escape room.
So there's many errors with that comment. By insane room, I meant insane asylum. And when he said chapter, there was supposed to be a slash. So it was nightmares / chapter. But that's the main reason why I wanted to do a Piggy theory video. Yet I haven't played chapter 4 of book 2, But I have a pretty good clue what could happen in chapter 5 if we didn't see Zizzy as an infected. Maybe we have to try to make our own cure for Zizzy, and maybe when we escape, we find Zizzy and we give her the potion, and it will either work or fail. If it will fail, we'll go on to chapter 6, where we find Mr. P, and he tells us that he might know a cure, but it might be too late because it might mutate, and with the mutation, the cure will basically be, well, cough medicine. You have to have it multiple times, and he said the ingredients are really hard to get. And then you try and find the ingredients while escaping Piggy, and in the refinery where there's multiple bots. Maybe where the ingredients are, there's a certain bot protecting it, and they're all the infected people. Maybe Doggy and Bunny will come back, because we still don't know where Bunny, Doggy, and even Penny is. Maybe George appears infected because we're starting to hallucinate, like when we hallucinated Bobby. No, not Bobby. I'm sorry. I didn't mean my dog. I meant Doggy, not Bobby. Appears in the hospital. I think at end of chapter 4. The school, and that's just a hallucination because Doggy is gone. No, wait, it's the end of chapter 5, the school. Chapter 4 is the forest, where Doggy gets infected because I think either one of the piggies or Mr. P himself forces Doggy to drink the potion and then get affected. Maybe before Penny, also Piggy, maybe, because Penny looks like Piggy. But yeah, and if chapter 11, not the one, not the actual chapter 11, the one before chapter 12 was released, the nightmare one where George wakes up. Maybe Memory or some person persuades George to drink the potion, and then when Penny leaves, he gets so angry because that's one of the symptoms they get when they drink, after they drink the potion. That's why he was feeling better when we were trying to escape, but when we did escape, the anger or sadness that George had turned him into infected, and then his normal self was like, this can't be happening, no, and then we find out it's all a dream, just like the bad insomnia theory. What if George has the bad insomnia and we're his imaginary friend, or a friend he made up so he can keep himself less lonely as we try to find him, but only Zizzy comes, but then Zizzy finds out he's already infected. And what if Zizzy got infected by George but kept it a secret until the time where Zizzy, the ending, this is all spoilers by the way, where Zizzy gets scratched by one of the infected? What if that was George and not Zizzy, and not one of the infected? What if she was hiding it all this time? Like, that would be really bad. Since Zizzy didn't, like, the good part of her didn't want them to get infected, they left right before she got infected. Because if they stayed any longer, she would have been infected, if that was the right theory. And then, if Zizzy was secretly, like, infected, wouldn't the whole safe place would be infected? And then Pony could be infected, because if George was infected and was still at the safe place, why wouldn't the safe place not be infected? That's why it's a chapter, because I know that it was the safe place that is in chapter 4, I believe. I can go check on my phone, because I'm on the exact same account. And that's why it's a chapter, because if it wasn't, then why is, if George was infected, this little hint that George or someone was secretly infected, that means, we could all secretly be infected, but we don't know it because we don't show the symptoms until the last minute. C is the safe place is chapter 4. As you can see, I will show you right now to prove my point. If George or someone was secretly... Hold up, anyone. Just a bit of lag. So if this theory was correct, then George or Pony or Zizzy could have been secretly infected for the amount of time we was with George, because George secretly infected Mr. P, because he came along with us, and in the bad ending, look, there is safe place. That is chapter 4. So this proves my point. If George or someone in the safe place, if George wasn't affected, then it showed in the memory place, it would have not made the chapter 4 the safe place, because why else would it be? Did Zizzy secretly follow Pony and you while you're trying going back home, the infected attack you? But wouldn't George and the others be infected by the time you come back? And if so, aren't you and Pony the only survivors left? That means you have less hope of getting the cure, which will mean Mr. Piggy might see how much trouble he has caused and tries to find you and says he has, and then you find out through a note in chapter 5 or 6 that Mr. Pig found how to give a cure, but he says it has a disadvantage. He says it can either cure them or mutate the infection and make them really bad. it could go to extreme levels of like threat level, and he doesn't want that to happen because he already knows that he's caused enough pain and suffering for everyone, like every survivor or used to be survivor, pain and suffering because of how easy it is to get infected just from a scratch. It's like a normal common cold but worse, like the virus happening now, it's like that. And Mr. P knows that if it gets mutated, just like a cold getting mutated into the virus now, because it's basically a really bad cold, he knows that there'll be no survivors left. And then he finds out that there is a common cure for his wife, and then he regrets what he's done just to see that the common cure for his wife is something so simple that he regrets even making the potions. And then he realizes he has like this time machine or something that can do rewind time, and then like probably chapter 9 or book 2, he finds out the cure, like ingredients to the cure, but like he already has the cure. But then in chapter 10, where like the first cutscene is Mr. P going back in time to when he was creating the potion for his wife. And that is when Mr. P suddenly comes out, and that's when you become Mr. P, just like the memory place, but you're not George, you're Mr. P. And then you say, "Stop, Mr. Me. You'll regret this in the future like I did. There's an easy cure you'll find out soon to heal your wife. If you make that potion, you'll infect others." And then Mr. P's like, and then the past Mr. P's, "Who do you think you can stop me?" And then there's an epic like boss battle thing. And then like one of the moves is like throwing the potion, like the cure or potion, like Mr. P, like past P, throws at you because he doesn't believe you. And when you either die or win, the die is when he gives his wife the potion, and then you come back and you say to Pony and you that I didn't do it in time. We have no other choice but to do the cure. And then if you win, Mr. P won't give the potion to his wife. That will make the infection go away, and there might be a different future. And you say that you've saved everyone, and then Mr. P and his wife, and maybe when George doesn't take the potion because he knows the side effect to it, just because he was secretly listening to your conversation with you and Pony, if Pony isn't infected, or you're just the last survivor with Mr. P because you didn't get infected by a scratch or anything. Pony, trying to save you, sacrificed himself like in chapter 8 or 7, and said, "Go on without me. Try and find Mr. P." And if it was chapter 8, that would make no sense, because how would they find Mr. P? So there'll have to be like a chapter finding Mr. P, and then if they win, they find Mr. P, and then chapter 9 happens. Because by the meantime, he also tells you about the side effects and all. And then you see a shadow behind, hiding behind something, only showing their head to listen to your conversation. And then he knows that he won't take the potion because George is not fully infected. If he takes the potion, he will get fully infected, and the infection would be even worse because it will mutate, just like Mr. P had hoped it would not happen, because he wanted to fix his mistake. And that's when book 3 happens. Maybe if Minitoon would do that. Anyway, what do you think? I think write it in the comments if you're interested. I just thought of this video because why not? And also, it's like what if Mr. P makes that common potion for his wife, but that turns out to be the exact same quote-unquote cure like the other one, but worse, and then it moves into book 3. Or into chapter 10, 11, and 12, where you're trying to find at least some proof that there's a potion out there that can cure everyone. And then chapter 12, you find it, but you haven't got any of the ingredients. That's when book 3 happens. And then the piggies find the Piggy army piggies find out what you're doing, and then they gather around where the ingredients are, and that's what you have to do as the book 3 chapter 12. And then when it's chapter 1, you try and find the places that Mr. P knows, but every time you encounter a piggy, and there's 12 ingredients, and the last chapter where the main ingredient is where all the piggies come and unite and protect the last ingredient with all their life. And then epic boss fight happens again, just like book 2, because there was no boss fight in book 1, which was a bit sad. But I think Minitoon wouldn't do that because he knew that there was gonna be a book 2. He even asked people if they wanted a book 2. Maybe he will do the same with book 3. And then I think book 3 will be the last one, or there'll be a Piggy 2 or 3 or 4 saying a completely different story about his wife's perspective of what her husband is doing and why. Maybe Mrs. P is half infected, or if Miss P was... Oh yeah, Miss P is his wife. I thought it was her his daughter or best friend. But what if Miss P was half infected, just like George, and still had self-conscious, and maybe Zizzy will have that self-conscious too. And by the time they get to the safe house, they realize it's no longer safe, and that everyone who was once in the safe house has either fled or gotten infected. Like, maybe Zuzi and Zaza hide because they realize George is secretly infected, or they're playing hide and seek and George turns infected and forgets that they're playing hide and seek, and then he just pretends that, and then realizes he needs to kill the people, like the intruders or non-infected, just because they might cure him, and he knows what they're gonna do. If they do, they're gonna give him the potion, and then he's gonna turn fully infected and then mutate because of how bad it was. Because as you could see in like the memory place, if you haven't played that chapter, well, it was a secret chapter just before chapter 12 in book 1. And if you didn't, the story is that he couldn't find his sister Penny, and when he did, she walked away, probably getting a potion / cure from Mr. P to test it, but instead gets infected. And George, with all the anger, and because Mr. P was like, okay, that's why George stayed home, because he already knew he had the potion. And when Penny left, all the anger symptom was affected, and he became half infected. That's why he said, no, this can't be happening to me, and then wakes up. He realizes if he becomes fully infected, he will have no self-conscious and decide to kill. And maybe in the safe house, his infected form finally snaps, taking over his body, having full control. And they don't realize that until the end, where George finally takes half of the control back to normal, where he would have full control of his body. And when it came around Christmas, like the Christmas event, and maybe they didn't notice that he was infected because he could still talk, and he was turned around half the time that they saw him, or either bent down looking at the floor where they couldn't see his eyes, or looking up where they couldn't see his eyes. And if they turn around, he would go the other way from them, just so he could hide that he was secretly infected. And then, Gerald and the other person that we soon find and the mole are infected and are guarding the door, and you have to shoot them with the gun, or stun them with Doggy's. Wait, if Doggy is alive, 'cause doesn't he make a return in Alice? Oh my, Doggy does come back, but maybe it's just a hallucination, and maybe it's just a normal policeman that you're calling Doggy or detective. But no, you're the detective. If you're a detective from chapter 1 to book 2, chapter 1, if you found the safe house, wouldn't the police find it too? And if the police were animals, because like sometimes they have trackers. Couldn't they just find you? That's why chapter 4 was a safe house, because eventually the police, like Polly and maybe Doggy, comes to find you, and it turns out they're infected, and all the police surround you, and you have no other choice but either to escape to like where the holiday place is. But then you realize that a certain Piggy, like the icicle Piggy, forms because like Piggy spill potions everywhere, and it starts to form already infected by the potion that it has absorbed because of how many potions are gathering around. It may be one like smashed on it, like, because it sounds like when Doggy was forced the potion, he like the glass like smashed very easily. So what if it like smashed onto that icicle pile, and then Icicle Piggy was made, and that's why they're not safe anymore. And why is Zizzy not in the place where they told them to, when she told them to leave, when they know she's infected in the holiday thing? What if they find her and then she says, I found this strange potion, and it turned out it was the cure. It said a note by Mr. P. To make this potion you need blah blah blah. And then dun dun dun, chapter 6 or chapter 5 if the new chapter for Christmas is not chapter 5. But anyway, I'm gonna leave it there. I'm gonna post this